Hot Nuts Kitchen. Today, we've got a special episode. Something you've been asking for, something you've been waiting patiently for. Low carb and keto hot dog buns. Yes, we have a recipe for low carb and keto hot dog buns that you are going to love. Stay tuned. Okay, I use a bread machine. So the first thing you need to do is get your loaf size up to 2 pounds. And then on your selection meter, you want to go to dough because you don't want it to automatically start cooking, but you'll take it out before that anyway. You see I got all my dry ingredients in there. Yeah, I know the bread machines tell you to put in the wet ingredients first, but I found this works better because you want to get all your dry ingredients mixed before you put in your wet ingredients. Make sure you don't get this caught in the bottom or it'll take a chunk off. Then you got to fish that out. So, okay, we got all of our dry ingredients in there and mixed. We'll start adding in our wet ingredients. This is the hot water with a little bit of honey in it. The recipe says to use a tablespoon, but I find you can get away with less. There's the butter. Make sure you get that mixed in real good. And last but not least, putting in an egg. Of course, the egg I picked had to crack the wrong way, so this is going to be all kinds of fun. One of those with a weak shell. Carefully put that in. You don't want to get your shell in there. You could put it in a cup and mix it ahead of time if you want. I found that if you're pretty good with eggs, it's not really necessary. Is switch hands, because I'm right-handed. Start bringing these sides in. Get it going. Now this is on the preliminary mix where it just stirs a little bit. I'll bring you back when it looks like it's supposed to. And in the bread machine, this is about the stage you want to see it at. You want it to be kneaded to where it makes one nice clump, and you should be able to touch it and come off pretty clean. You don't want it to be real sticky. It might be a little bit sticky, but you don't want it to be real sticky. If it's too sticky, you can always add a little bit more, either gluten or oat fiber, to stiffen it up a bit. But you want it in the bread machine, it should roll itself over and knead all the way around, not just be stuck in one spot. That shows that it's too dry. You see it's starting to show a little bit of fibrous, glutinous action there to it, some stringiness to it, and that tells me it's about right. Now, like with the old recipe, you don't want to over knead it. So this is just about done. It just started kneading a couple of minutes ago, and it's just about done. It started at 121 on the timer, so that gives you any idea how long it's been in there. It only has to knead a little bit, just enough to make sure that it stays together when you put it in the oven to let it rise, which is our next step after we roll it out. Now comes the rolling stage. You take a chunk a little bigger than a golf ball, maybe the size of an egg, the size of a large egg, give or take, and you kind of roll it like this in your hands until it gets nice and smooth all the way around. You might have to fumble it a little bit like that to get it to move around, but you want to try to get it smooth all the way around. How pretty they end up depends a lot on how much you do this. I'm not nearly as particular about it being pretty at the end. I just get tired of doing this. But you see how it's nice and smooth and round pretty much. Then you just start rolling this direction instead of the other direction. It really is that simple. You put some pressure, but don't over pressure. Don't force them. As you're kneading them more as you do this, and you're kneading them into their final size and shape, which you want to be, of course, a hot dog bun. And then, as I make them, I tend to try to press them kind of close together. I want them to grow together in the oven as they rise. That's the key. I want them to rise together in the oven and kind of grow together. That gives them easy, soft edges on the sides that real hot dog buns have. That helps them to come apart easier. It keeps them softer inside. You don't want a hot dog bun to have a hard crust like a rye bread, like my rye bread has. Because if it has a hard crust, when you try to bite into it, the hot dog shoots out the end. So does everything else. So you want it to have a nice, soft texture, which these have, and a nice sweet flavor, which these have. I strongly encourage the Bocha Sweet. It's a little expensive, but it makes a lot better flavor. I used half Bocha Sweet, half Lakanto monk fruit. That seems to be a pretty good mix. Pretty good mix. I think I got this one a little bit big, but that's okay. A little bit big's better than too small. You can't fit a hot dog in them if they're too small. Besides, you never really know how much they're gonna rise. But about that far apart. Just about that far apart. So, you just continue on doing that with the rest of them, and I'll see you when they're getting ready to go in the oven to rise. Okay, so what comes next? Well, we take all these nicely rolled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got 13. I could have rolled them a little smaller and gotten 16. I like them a little bigger anyway. Now you could roll out 12 and have some nice brat buns, however you want to do it. But anyway, I preheated this oven a little bit earlier. Got it up to, you can see there, a little over 100 degrees. I put them in there so they can preheat in a warm oven. And then I have this pan here of water I'm heating on top of the stove. It's not quite ready yet, but it will be in a minute, and I'll stick it on the bottom in there, and I'll let them proof for about 25, 30, 35 minutes till they're almost to the size I want them, because you know they rise a little more when you start baking them. And then the trick is, when you start baking them, you pull out the pan of water and turn the oven on, and then they rise even better while they start baking. And that ends up making them softer in the end, softer and more moist, and they just have such a wonderful flavor. And you'll see when I go to pull them out. But it looks like my water is almost to boiling. I just stick it underneath there just to add a little bit of a steamy element in there so that the crust doesn't get hard on top. You don't want a hard crust. That's the biggest problem with a lot of keto breads, is they form quite the hard crust. So if you do that, you're going to have a softer crust, and soft crust is what you really want. As you can easily see, these have raised up nicely, and they'll raise a little bit more as they start baking, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to fire up the oven and get them going. You do just like that. You close the door, turn the oven on while they're in there, and they'll gradually rise up to the heat they need, which will inspire them to rise up more quickly and get fluffier and lighter, which is what we want. I definitely could have made them a little smaller. Probably could have easily got 16 or more out of that. But sometimes I just get tired of rolling them up, and I always seem to make them too big. I will see you when they're done. These have been in the oven for about 22 minutes. Boy, are they pretty. Let's let them cool, then we'll take a closer look. We're back at the end. These are still kind of warm, but they've been out for about 10 or 15 minutes. You get a good look at how they look on the inside here. Nice and light, fluffy, springy. They're still warm, so I could easily squish it, but didn't they turn out nice? And the big question, how do they taste? Well, I'll be right back to eat this and let you see my facial reaction. Okay, last but not least, how does it taste? Well, as you can see, I did make them a little bit on the big side. I always tend to do that. Put a little sugar-free ketchup on it. Let's take a bite. So as you can see there for where I bit it, it didn't take much pressure to bite through the crust because there is hardly any crust. It's nice and soft like a real hot dog bun. And see, it's still nice and springy. Delicious too. So you could cook these up for non-keto relatives. They would not know that you didn't go out and buy some artisan buns. They would never know these are low carb buns. And by low carb, I mean if you make 16 of them like I could have and should have, they're about just a little over 2 grams of net carbs each. That's really low for a hot dog bun. And unlike a lot of others, these taste like a hot dog bun. They really do. Let me know in the comments what you think. Make some, let me know in the comments what you think. And please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. And thank you so much for watching. Hi, this is Putnut. If you enjoyed that, click right over here for more low-carb recipes and reviews. And if you love the channel, please click right here to subscribe. It really helps. And thank you very much for watching. Please be assured we here at Putnut's Kitchen appreciate every minute you spend with us.